Remember who you are and what you stand for, and act accordingly. I've told you before that I had a very religious upbringing, and growing up, we were taught a ton of control through what was perceived right and wrong. Really, it felt like a very restrictive list of don'ts, and then the do's were couched in do this because you don't want to do that kind of thing. So there was like, don't cuss, and don't smoke, and don't drink coffee or caffeine, and don't do drugs, that's just bad. And then some of the do's were like, your body is a temple, do keep it clean so that the Lord can reside within you, and do be calm, and do remember that you are an example to everyone that you come in contact with, and you don't want them to judge us or our religion poorly because of your actions. Do control your emotions, don't be so hyper and obnoxious. And the list goes on and on and on. And I know we all have rules when we're kids and growing up. It's part of the way that our parents keep us safe, and it's absolutely natural and normal. As I was growing up and learning how to drive, my dad did shift one of his statements. Instead of the do's and don'ts necessarily, he started to tell me, remember who you are and what you stand for, and act accordingly. Now, the act accordingly was an addition to this statement, because originally it was just remember who you are and what you stand for. That was the easy part. I knew who I was and what I stood for. It had been drilled into my head since birth. It was a guarantee that I knew that. But whether or not I chose to act accordingly to this list of do's and don'ts was a completely different subject that could be an endless rabbit hole of all the things that I chose to do differently so that I could experience the why behind the rule that existed in that time and place. Now, as an adult, I've been adulting outside of my parental supervision for a couple decades now. I even have grandkids. That means that as I've grown, I've also been able to put my own interpretation and understanding of the lists of do's and don'ts. When I finally decided to leave the church of my childhood, those new interpretations were like fertile soil that could help me discover what really aligned with my inner truth and my real self, and what really didn't work anymore. One of the don'ts that shifted dramatically for me was the don't or the do of keep your body clean, it's a temple. Now, as I was growing up, this was more than personal hygiene. This was, you don't want tattoos, and the food that you put inside your body, it went back to cigarettes and coffee and other things that we choose to put in that the church had decided were not for us. And I understood a bunch of that, but a tattoo in that religion was akin to graffiti on a house of worship. And that was just unthinkable and offensive and wrong. My kids used to ask me when they were growing up, hey mom, can we get a tattoo? And my response was always something along the lines of, you can do anything to your body that you want to once you leave the house. And right now, since you're still under my roof, I think that all of the scars that you have gotten from all of the adventures that you've been living are fabulous tattoos that are going to follow you throughout your life. So if you're gonna live happy, and then wear those scars and those tattoos with pride. And then I would always follow up with, and when you do choose to get one, I sincerely hope that those tattoos really mean something to you, that you can wear those with pride, just like you wear the scars and the adventures that you lived. As my own journey of self-awareness and ownership continued, I immediately knew that there were three tattoos that I would end up getting. I didn't know when I would get them, and yet all 3 of them came in with absolute certainty and clarity. There was no question, no doubt in my mind that I would choose to beautify my temple with these decorations. And I would choose them because of what I wanted to remember for always and forever. These things, these symbols of my changes and my growth. And I knew that when the time was right, that it would be time to put them where they wanted to go. My first one was a turtle. Yes, I have a turtle tattoo, and I'm sure I know a lot of other people do too. I happily joined those ranks. My turtle's on my right foot. The right foot is traditionally the masculine or the expansive, energetic side of the human body. It's symbolic to be there because I live a lot from that expansive, intense side of me. I push really hard. I go too fast. I try to do more and be more and continually pushing to get to the next step, to the next thing, to the next activity, to achieve this and that. And one night I was pulling tarot cards and I had been struggling with the need. There was this inner need to be less expansive and more introspective. And yet this expansive side of me was saying, I really want to go and do and succeed, even though the rest of me needed to be in a more wintering, calming space. And this turtle came in that moment, in that meditative space, and said, hey, it is time for you to walk at a pace that works for you, not for the rest of the world. And it is time to go a little bit slower. I knew then it was time to put a turtle on my right foot. It is a constant reminder that I absolutely love and adore. It brings me so much joy. And there's no childhood fear or insecurity from the belief that this was wrong because of my new definition that this is a decoration and my body is still a temple. I am still able to connect with my higher power. I've shifted that perspective and embraced it. Recently did a thing and I have a new one. And you think about a peacock. When a peacock opens its tail feathers, it's beautiful. And at the end of each one of those feathers is an eye. Looks a little bit like an eyeball. Each one of those, even though they're right next to each other, has a slightly different perspective. Whether it's right next to each other or on the other side of the tail, everything looks different. And then there's the myth of the phoenix. The phoenix rises from the ashes. It may burn up, it may go through challenges, but at the end, it is reborn better and stronger than it was to begin with. My new ink is both. And it was more than ready to come be with me and be my reminder, especially given light of my new circumstances with my mom and her dementia. Because taking a moment, I am so close with my mom, and it's like we are two feathers right next to each other. But if I look at her side of this experience and I understand the challenges and the fear of losing your mind and the frustration that you have, there's nothing you can do to change it and shift it, that renewed perspective, even though we're kind of right next to each other going through this experience together, helps me see that really sucks. And I can be more compassionate and helpful for her throughout this entire experience. And then the phoenix feather is a reminder that this is going to be one hell of a challenge. And even though it will be a hell of a challenge, I will be able to come out of the ashes stronger and with new knowledge, with new understanding to be able to embrace the next challenge and the next challenge. I will be able to grow through this experience. I hope in your daily lives that you can do the same. I hope you can take a moment, and when you're frustrated with someone or something, you can pause and try to look at the situation from a different perspective, with a new set of eyes, Maybe that will help you gain new understanding. And if it's really a challenge and you're really struggling to get through it, remember, what are you learning? What gifts are in this experience? And how much better will you be with all of the knowledge that you've learned?